It's Real Talk, episode 13, John Carpenter. Which of his films will score highest on today's show? Comedian and director Justin Tyler returns in a revealing costume to review Halloween. From Poison Rana, pro wrestling podcaster and Canada's own Braden Harrington scores They Live. And JoeBelcastro.com sponsors the chat Sid the Cinema Sloth and I have about The Thing. Now please leave a kind comment or review and subscribe so we know you're not an extraterrestrial.
Real Talk is powered by Real Digital. If you work for a brand or agency producing content, keep it real by setting up a consultation at www.realdigital.media to see how your next campaign can come in ahead of schedule and under budget.
Subgenre is defined as a specific category within a broader genre characterized by a unique set of traits, and Halloween is a textbook example of the slasher subgenre of horror, but is it too textbook? On Real Talk, we examine films through a rubric designed to fairly discuss any movie and determine its value based on the sum of its parts. And once you look past Halloween's stylish skeleton, there's not much meat on the bone. If Halloween is a classic, it's because it celebrates timeless filmmaking techniques that require absolutely no thematic substance to demonstrate. And if all great art is a mirror for its audience, then perhaps the scariest thing about John Carpenter's 1978 film is the kill count culture it helps cultivate. Perhaps I'm in the minority for thinking this is an overrated film, but I have a feeling Halloween's cult status stands on the shoulders of a vocal minority. With even the slightest bit of supernatural exposition or hints of a larger evil at play, this film might be more memorable than A Bad Daydream, but this lion just wanted Halloween to end, and it wasn't because I was scared. Friend of the show, writer-director, and if I'm lucky, deliverer of Halloween candies, Justin Tyler returns to help me score this film. Justin, is the boogeyman real?
Wow, what a scathing roar across the bow from our somewhat friendly lion friend.
Yeah.
For a beast that likes candy, you sure hate Halloween. Something that seems incongruous.
Hey, what?
And no, I'm coming to your cave, so yes, I should be the one getting candy, trick or treat style.
Margie and Frankie, they're amazing. They work on the show. They're going to be on that. But I just have to thank you for dressing up, by the way.
Yes.
You looked wonderful the last few times. One time I even think I told you how great you smelled.
I wanted to look right. And so I was sexually satisfying teen from the movie Halloween. So I came just as I usually dress, and I'm good at sex in only 3 to 4 minutes.
I was gonna ask. That's what I thought you were going as, but I didn't want to put a label on it. So thank you for describing it so well, because you're knocking it out of the park. This movie is a classic. I clearly have some thoughts on it. I'm very interested to hear your response, seeing as you've already labeled me as being scathing, which makes me think maybe you had a better time watching this movie than I did. As is tradition on the show, we talk about the plot first. What were your thoughts on the plot before I?
Well, I'm not gonna lift my leg up and piss on it like my lion friend did here. I'd never seen this movie before, and gotta remember the time that this movie came out, like back in the day before a lot of other horror movies. This was a genre-establishing movie. It definitely moves at a slower pace compared to most movies now, but I actually like that. It makes for more of a creeping, meticulous horror. It reminds me of like It Follows.
Yeah.
The music is unbelievable. This is John Carpenter just like showing off in a great way. The effect with the stark visuals, interesting edit, and like really letting us be with the monster for a lot of the movie made me really, really like this for what it was. Sure, I've got some criticisms. I didn't need to know so much about the high school social politics of the characters in this movie, but I certainly get into it. There's a lot of like, would you watch this kid? I gotta go over here and do this other thing. It's like a little crazy, but there's some, the horror became known for its kills after this movie was made.
Yeah, the kill count.
There are some like good ones that I liked the visual use here, the way that we get to see them. So yeah, I liked it definitely more than you did.
Here's where I take issue with it. I feel like any movie that I'm going to sit down and look, this is a 90-minute film. This is I think 91 minutes to be specific.
Yeah.
It's not a big commitment, and I am a big believer that, a good movie can't be too long and a bad movie can't be too short. And this movie really did drag for me. I
Hmm.
when I watched it, I was bored a lot, and I just didn't expect that going in. I really thought that I was going to be on the edge of my seat. I expected some more jump scares. And it sounds like, you are identifying maybe a more mature and meticulous filmmaking technique that to me just came across again as kind of, it felt like more of a filler. It felt like this was a 45-page script that they had to stretch out to 90 minutes. And
Hmm.
the film starts, we have a doctor. He's in this car. He has a nurse who's with him. They go to the mental institution, and this is when Michael Myers presumably escapes and steals the car and drives away. What happened to the nurse? Where did the nurse go? She's right there with the doctor, and then the next time we see Loomis, the nurse is just gone and never referred to again.
Well, she has a tough, she's got an inmate all over her, pushing her face around. Like, it's not cool.
It was less of me wanting her to be there and more of me thinking I missed something. And I just, that's where for me in terms of plot, there's a term called seat time, and it's something a filmmaker is meant to want to avoid. And the idea is that it's when the audience realizes they're watching a movie, they realize they're in their seat. Sometimes they could be thinking about, what they want to get for groceries and what they need to pick up. It can also be someone immediately goes, wait, what happened? Did I miss something? And I immediately kind of felt that out of the gate because that character was missing. I don't know. Maybe that was just a little too much of a trip up too soon. But from there, it was hard for me to continue to take anything too seriously because it just felt like the information wasn't really relevant or important.
The young Mike Myers. And again, I thought this opening sequence was cool. You're like, what's this killer? And it's revealed it's like a kid in an immaculate
No, I thought
costume.
I really, really like that. And if I'm honest, and I'm glad you identified that, because for me, that is the best part of the movie. I think that's the most inventive, interesting part. It does a great job of establishing this voyeuristic camera. I was anticipating that there would be a swerve and it wouldn't actually be the killer. It ends up being the killer, and then when you find out who the killer is, it's really unsettling. And so, yeah, I did think that was really strong. I did really enjoy that. I just don't think the rest of the movie is on that level. I don't think it's nearly as clever. Like I said, it really, really dragged for me, and I don't know. I felt like if there was just some sort of injection of something more in terms of purpose of other than this kid is crazy. If there's some sort of supernatural element to it, we have to know that. I mean, he can't be killed. But
I don't know. We don't get too much supernatural here.
Well, I just mean in the fact that he clearly is some sort of monster. Like he gets shot, he gets stabbed, and he doesn't die. So that's just what I mean by it. That there's something, he's more than human. And I'm not saying that I need an explanation for that, but I think for me it would just it would have made it more interesting to me if there was any sort of a character or a hint at there's something going on that is allowing this to happen, as opposed to just this guy's a monster because we need a monster. We just sort of need these things to happen. And it all just kind of felt senseless to me. And again, yeah.
Because I take your point. I just have the opposite reaction to it because I feel like so many movies now, especially a lot of horror movies, are like explanation porn, where it's like, so here's why this is happening. I'm like, I just just do it. I want to do it, and that's why this is the slow stalking of, and they reference this line a lot, of like a boogeyman. It's like a small town boogeyman, the thing that everyone's a little afraid of, especially like a babysitter alone with a kid, is like, this is terrifying. And there's
worst case scenario.
There's sex in mixed up in this. Like everyone's trying to hook up. Young Mike Myers kills his sister, presumably because she has sex when she's supposed to be watching him. That's my take on it. And then we get a lot of that later on in the repetition of the pattern where it's all these kids having sex and Mike Myers just kills them to just follow the pattern that got him there. And that, I like that idea that speaks to like teen fears and teen wants and like a time when you're like hormones are crazy. So you are thinking crazy things and, killer kid with a giant knife, just great imagery. The Mike Myers imagery is great. The way we ride with him literally behind his eyes in the killing in the beginning. And then later we really stalk with him for a lot of the movie. And yes, it is slow, but it's also like we're watching the kids and it's revealed that he's watching them. So we're with him.
Right.
That's an interesting twist to me, where we sort of are riding with the killer and he kills silently like a force of nature. I think when he's shot at the end and then then Loomis looks out the window and he's gone, that's meant to be like the boogeyman. It's everywhere.
Right.
It's still out there. And that's cool. We don't have to be like, no, he's actually super powered by grave juice or whatever like a modern movie might do. It's just like, no, we don't need to know, because that's how monsters work.
I feel like that's a really, really great take. And I don't want to say that it changes my point of view, but I think I do stand behind, I don't need to know why he's the boogeyman. I think I just would have liked something other than a bunch of scared kids speculating that he's the boogeyman to help. For example, the Loomis character, if he wasn't presented as a doctor looking for an escaped mental patient, and instead he was some sort of, I don't know, I don't want to keep going back to the supernatural thing, but just somebody who is looking for a monster, not looking for a mental patient, I think would have maybe just allowed me to immediately understand or appreciate more of what we were up against, because I'm thinking of this is more of like a Hannibal Lecter. This is more of just a troubled person, but it's not. It's a monster. And so, I don't know, maybe I was naive going in and sort of following the plot a little too closely. I felt like I wanted there to be something more than what was clearly just meant to be a figment of fear.
Well, just real quick on what you're saying. I mean, the rest of the franchise certainly explores what you're talking about. So I think maybe you would like some of the way the later movies pick up and really get into sort of who and what and why. But I like the Escape Asylum thing is such like a bedtime story, or like a suburban legend. So that I don't mind that. I like that it is that sort of the vagueness of that fear and the way we see it as like this series of disasters that unfold and the kids pay the price. Again, giving it a little grade on the curve because it feels early in the genre, establishing a lot of these beats that would go on to become tropes and cliches. I got to give this, especially for the moves in the back half of the movie, I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8, okay. It is official. Justin has given Halloween, the plot, an 8. Now we're talking about characters and performances. Michael Myers, an iconic horror movie slasher villain. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think she's clearly a legend in the industry. I don't know. I think the popularity of this film, it's easy to point to and go, oh, this is sort of an iconic role for her. But the role itself, the character is not memorable. You literally have a memorable actress in a successful movie, so to speak. But
I agree with you. There's not much going on here. And honestly, Jamie Lee Curtis, and I'm biased because of when seeing this now and when I saw her throughout her career, like she always just seems old. She has old energy. So not that she's not old, but older than the character, the age of the character.
Yeah, there's a maturity that she brings to her roles. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the other characters are just being weird. But like their cast, sometimes all you need is a face. And like the dude who plays the cop, he's like, he says very dumb things. The girls are like driving and he's like, oh, sorry. Yeah. Someone robbed the hardware store. Kids. You know how kids are up to? They stole knives, rope. What?
Yeah.
He's like, they took rope, masks, and knives. Nothing to worry about there. Sort of crazy. The kids are going through these kids digging up these meticulously sized graves and then getting rid of the dirt. A lot of weird ideas happening here, and it's hard to pay off those lines because they're so goofy. But that cop's face is perfect. So anyway, to get back to actually the performance, yeah, there's not a lot of. This is not a performer featured movie. Like I wouldn't give anybody a lot of cred for their acting work here. This is about the vibe, the mood, the look, and of course the sound.
There's a scene where Michael Myers is driving the station wagon and one of the girls kind of like shouts at him. I don't remember what she yells, but she's just like, slow down, I think is something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And he stops and he just sits there. That was very funny to me. I don't know why, but like I just was, because I know he's a monster. I know he's Michael Myers. I live in the same world we all do. It just, in that moment, to kind of see him is almost this like angry guy who's like, I don't know, and I get that it's supposed to build tension. Is he gonna kill them or whatever? But I just sort of read it as like, I don't know, he's gonna read them in a riot act or something. And he just sits there for a while and then drives off. And there were just decisions made with the characters and even with the performance, specifically when Michael Myers is moving. Yes, there are times where it's this really looming, scary presence, but there's also just other shots and stuff where it look a little goofy to me. I don't want to say that through the lens of a 2025 eye watching a movie from the late 70s. I just mean generally, I don't know, the handling of some of these situations ended up being a little goofy and funny to me when they meant to be scary.
I mean, I think that's part of the time that this was made and everything. So I don't know. But if I had to give it a number, which is I think what we're headed for here.
Yes, sir.
Performance-wise, I'll give it I'm going to give it a 5.
A 5. All right. Very fair. The next category is visual storytelling, and I want to point out before I get your thoughts that this film was shot by legendary director of photography, Dean Cundey. Dean did a few movies you might be familiar with, Justin. He was the director of photography for the Back to the Future franchise. He did Jurassic Park.
Pretty solid.
Also a little movie called Apollo 13.
Great.
And a whole bunch of other ones. I could go on and on. So I do want to say I've obviously been really critical of the film. I think a lot of what makes this movie work is the fingerprints of him. And clearly, obviously, a great director, a legendary director under their own right. But it's really easy to write Halloween off as an example of John Carpenter's work. I actually just want to make the distinction as we talk about the visual storytelling. I think all the strengths of Halloween really belong to the director of photography, because this is a great looking movie. You cannot take anything away. There were some beautiful shots. What did you think about the visual storytelling?
I agree. I love the visual. I was talking about it before. Like they're just great. There's a confidence to the camera where like we just see Mike Myers in the shot. We find him in the shot sometimes. We just cut to him in a good way. Some of the kills, because technically there's not I don't think they had the money or whatever to make these like really surprising, evocative kills. It's on the camera to like the choice to be behind the killer's eyes in the opening thing. That makes that. I don't think that works if we're just seeing the kill in another way.
Yeah.
The way that we see the strangling in the car, I thought was the last image where the girl's just open eye is like half of her face is shown in the window.
Mm-hmm.
The way they shoot the boy, the guy who just had sex, very good at sex. Very good. That's why I'm in the costume. And he goes down to get a beer. The way we see that kill, I thought was really well done. Like, we don't know how it's happening until we cut wide and see the knife jammed in. So like, I thought the visuals were great here. I would give it, I would jump it up a bit to like, I'm going to go 9.
A 9. Yeah, no, I think this is clearly a legendary director of photography. And I think this is a really strong piece of work in his catalog and in his portfolio. We reviewed The Edge on this show, and there's a sequence at the beginning of The Edge where Hannibal Lecter himself is making a sandwich. And in many ways, when I was watching that scene you mentioned, where your costume goes down to make a sandwich, I don't know, it did feel like there were maybe some fingerprints or a little bit of an homage there to Halloween, because it does. In this movie's impact is everywhere on Poe. You talked about tropes and things that exist within the genre, but I think that this movie does have a big impact, and a lot of that again goes to the visuals. We've got a 9 locked in. Use of sound. This movie, like you said, has a pretty distinct soundtrack.
I mean, the sound makes this. Like, I feel like, there's no real needle drops in this, but we do hear "Don't Fear the Reaper" sort of randomly in the middle. I don't know. This was made so long ago. I'm like, did they have to pay up for that song? Why do they put that in there if they're listening to it on the radio?
This movie only had a budget of $325,000. So yeah, unlikely that they would have been licensing any sort of popular music. Because yeah, I totally forgot that. Yeah, that does sneak its way in here.
I'll just say, like, I think this has to be 10 out of 10 from I'll give it that number because this changed how horror sounds. The way, the creeping tones. I mean, John Carpenter loves this shit. And have you ever heard his album or her albums? Like this is his move. He's so good at building tension, releasing tension, hearing noise before you realize you're hearing it and having it affect you subtly. Just really pioneered that, and it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's difficult to argue that the sound design is much like the visuals. I mean, I think all the tension in this movie works because of the way it's filmed, cut, and then yeah, that not just effective, but incredibly distinct and iconic soundtrack. That brings us to themes, the final category. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. How I think one of the biggest problems for me, but when digesting it and not really being engaged, was a sense of kind of lack of purpose or deeper meaning. And for me, that all stems from the theme. And I felt like if there was something more deeper to this, and again, I get the argument, this is just supposed to be a Halloween movie. This is just supposed to be a scary exploration of these tropes and this sort of fairy tale, like you said, what a babysitter would tell, someone they were watching before they fell asleep. But the reality is, as a movie, I didn't feel like this really had anything in terms of theme. Am I wrong? Did I miss something?
I mean, thematically, I feel like it is the suburban legend that keeps you up night, made real, given form, and so I think that counts to me thematically. I think there's, I said earlier, like teenage sexual awakening is a big part here, like from the opening sequence where he kills his sister right after she has very fast sex with her boyfriend in 1963. Quickest sex in the game, still unbeaten record. And then later we
get it. You're an Adonis, Justin Tyler. We get it. My goodness.
The kids are killed that do have sex. Jamie Lee Curtis, who is, sort of staying away from sex. She's like, her friend sets her up with a prom date, and she's like, again, too deep in the social politics of this high school. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, she's moving away from that, and she is saved by the end of the movie. Which I don't know if this was the first movie to establish that, like, if kids have sex, they must die. The final girl is the one who sort of that is backing away from that. Mm-hmm. But certainly a big part of the genre.
The teenage slasher movie. I mean, that it's part and parcel. You need someone with a knife, and you need a couple teenagers having sex.
Yeah, going to reality in when the Zodiac Killer was killing people in that same way. So I don't know, like that's a strong enough theme that it became to reality. Back years ago, I had a sketch group named Sidecar, and we did a sketch built around that idea, where a killer with a knife is outside of a car with two people hooking up, and he keeps waiting for them to have sex, and they keep delaying for different reasons, and it's driving him crazy. So that was fun, and the fact that I had never seen this movie that it is maybe based on was a real strike against me as a comedy mind.
Well, your willingness to open up here on Real Talk is much.
Yeah, when I hear Real Talk, I gotta get real.
Well, what would you give the theme then? If at 1 out of 10, what would you do?
I'm gonna pop it up. I like the themes. I like the also just the feel. It's not a theme, but the feeling of like being sort of on the shoulder of the killer for a lot of the movie, and then being on the shoulder of Loomis as he sort of kills him at the end. I thought was really cool. So I'm gonna give it a 9 thematically.
A 9 thematically. All right. Well, that is a very. If I say it's generous, it sounds like maybe I'm editorializing more. But to run it back, you gave the plot an 8, the characters and performances a 5, the visual storytelling a 9, the use of sound a 10, and the themes a 9. That's a total of 82.
I love movies.
And that's why we love having you here.
I think I said this earlier, there is a curve to be graded on here because this movie was established a lot of stuff that our brains are too pickled in to remember what it would have been like to see something like this for the first time. So I think you got to bump it up a little bit to an A-.
An A-.
Just because of the way it defined a genre, helped define a genre.
We've got it locked in, an A-. Now I'm going to reveal my score. While I do that, please enjoy some of the candy that Margie and Frankie brought. It's a good assortment. I think there's some Swedish fish in there.
That's not candy. That's definitely the vegetables of the candy world are Swedish fish. They're disgusting. They look like they should be good.
Wow.
No, they're the ultimate prank. I'm giving my review of your candy, the review you're about to give to this movie.
All right, well, there you go. That was my attempt to sweeten things up. Let us know in the comments if that's not the hottest take in the show, that Swedish fish are the vegetables of candy. I know some
Yuck.
be really upset by
Yucko.
All right, well, I will rip this Band-Aid off. I gave the plot a 2.5. Again, for me, the movie really drug. I wasn't really engaged. I did find myself waiting for this movie to be over. I gave it a 2.5. Characters and performances, I gave it a 5, just like you. We actually were totally in agreement there. Visual storytelling, I gave it a 7 to your 9. Again, I do feel like the visual storytelling is really strong, but there were also moments, like I said, just decisions made that had the exact opposite intention, where I was kind of laughing and I just wasn't really pulled in. So I did give it a 7. The use of sound, I gave an 8. Again, you were very generous in giving this a 9. I think that the iconic score goes a very long way, maybe all the way, in getting that an 8. And when it came to themes, you and I were very, very much on opposite ends of the spectrum. I actually gave it a 1 because I felt like, for me, this movie was just really void of any themes. I felt like it just didn't really have anything to say about what it was doing. It was just sort of saying it. So I gave the movie overall a 47, which for me was an F. That's probably more of an indictment of Al's taste in film, but please, you're all more than welcome to roast me in the comments. I know I am in the minority. I said it in my open. People love this film. I'm not one of them. I'm sorry. John Carpenter is a legendary filmmaker. I touted the greatness of the cinematographer. Jamie Lee Curtis is a legend. This movie's not for me.
Wow.
I gave it a 47. You gave it an 82. That's an average of 64. I think most people are probably going to be more inclined to agree with you.
Yes. Because they know about my sexual prowess, and clearly you're not a lion who fucks.
I think maybe that's the problem, is I'm so distracted now, and clearly, even as the king of the jungle, I feel inferior next to you, and maybe I'm taking that out on the film.
Well, but you will survive. So that's pretty cool. You're the king of the jungle, I'm the kink of the jungle, and those, what a partnership.
It may be a little late in the show to change your lower third, but kink of the jungle is... Maybe that'll become a t-shirt. You've now been on the show 3 times, Justin. We really love having you here. We always tell our listeners to check out Platinum Plastic on Redbubble because we've got tons of great show merch there. And I think maybe Kink of the Jungle might be a design popping up soon. But, thank you again, as always. I hope maybe someday you'll come back to the jungle and review some more films with me. But it's been such a pleasure hosting you.
Definitely. I'll come back anytime. Rawr.
Platinum Plastic isn't just a proud sponsor of Real Talk, they're also the home for all our new designs and merchandise. Follow Platinum Plastic on Redbubble to see all our A+ gear. That's Platinum Plastic on Redbubble for all your Real Talk merch.
They Live is a sort of sci-fi corporate dystopian western that takes place in a time where there are no more countries, no more good guys, and the titular they own everything. And if you're listening to this while wearing sunglasses, that fictional reality might sound all too familiar. Like the best episodes of The Simpsons have done too many times, They Live presents satire that in hindsight feels like a blueprint society was afraid to look at. It's difficult not to enjoy They Live on some level, but I must admit that the profound themes the film navigates seems to get lost at the halfway point as the analogy that's being presented breaks down into a cheesy action picture that doesn't offer anything other than a reminder that we, the non-wealthy, are not in control and are consistently being manipulated. Is it okay to sell out if it's the norm and means you'll be on the winning team? Or is it more heroic to strip yourself of the comforts and privileges of modern society to not aid or endorse the machine that's fueling it? This 1988 cult classic suggests that exposing the truth is a solution. But unfortunately, as the film eerily predicts, here in 2025, the truth is seemingly as subjective as self-interest itself. I had to call in someone who can both chew bubblegum and review people kicking ass, and for audio clarity purposes, we're all out of bubblegum. From Poison Rana, pro wrestling podcaster, Toronto's own The Brady, Mr. Braden Harrington. Braden, are you ready to obey, baby?
I'm going to obey, consume. You know, life's a bitch, and she's back in heat. Very happy to be here in the jungle. And I mean, we're still living in the 80s if you were to ask John Carpenter. But after watching this movie, gives you just a little bit of a chill down your spine of kind of what's been going on in the current climate.
I mean, this movie, I think, is on some level kind of a horror movie, and the absolute scariest thing about it is how insanely accurate it is. I mean, we're only less than 3 years shy of this being 30 years old, and it could come out today and be the exact same movie.
Roddy Piper, obviously the star of this movie, he said a few times that as years go by, maybe this movie was just a documentary.
We're going to talk about plot first. I'm also going to tease a little game. We don't do it all the time, but only for certain guests we play a little game here, and I did design a game just for you, Braden. But I have to ask you first as sort of a primer, because you are a pro wrestling aficionado. You yourself have been a pundit for many, many years covering the world of pro wrestling. When was the first time you saw They Live? What's your relationship like with the film?
I've watched this as a kid on, I don't know, TBS or any of these like, you know, free movie channels, AMC or whatnot. But in the last 5 to 10 years, I've not put this one on. I feel like it's kind of new to me. It felt kind of fresh, even though when watching it today, I reminded myself, oh, I've seen this a bunch when I was a kid, because it's Roddy Piper fighting. It's that movie with the aliens and the obey. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I know this movie very, very well. Having not seen it in so long and with everything going on, it felt very refreshing. I don't know. It felt exciting.
There are moments in this film that, again, as a lion pushing 40, I might call a little bit cheesy, but those cheesy moments really do make the film digestible for a younger audience who I think it's easier for them to come back to it later and see the themes and maybe the things they didn't get when they were younger. I'm glad to hear you say that, because even in real time, I'm sort of adjusting my thought process on, again, certain parts of the film, because I wasn't introduced to this when I was young. I was introduced to this when I was a bit older in college. A lot of the imagery in this movie, is very iconic and has been, picked up and used. And so, again, a lot of great films, I was sort of familiar with aspects of it before I ever saw it.
Yeah, like it's Roddy Piper, and as a wrestling fan, I think, we're in the era of your John Cena, Batista, The Rock, all being big Hollywood movie stars, but Roddy Piper wasn't a big Hollywood movie star. In fact, I'm pretty sure he lost his job for a little bit. He wanted the Hulk Hogan deal. Hulk Hogan had the authority from Vince McMahon to go make real, sorry if I offend, shitty movies. And Roddy Piper was like, hey, I want a piece of that pie. And Hulk Hogan has never made a movie as good as Roddy Piper here in They Live. So I know Three Ninjas at High Noon is really good, but this one,
tread lightly, Brady.
Yeah, Mr. Nanny, it's all right. And imagine if Hulk Hogan was in this movie. It would not be nearly as good.
Oh, doesn't work at all. I mean, one of the reasons that Roddy Piper works so well in this, because it's like, I think You're talking about it. And Roddy Piper is jacked to the gills in this movie. And he's way bigger in this movie than I think I ever saw him in a...
His chin, his hair, his flow, he is a gorgeous looking Canadian man.
Saskatchewan's own. He does what he's walking up in the flannel and jeans. He looks like a guy that's in good shape. He looks like a movie star, but he looks like a normal person. Hulk Hogan is, at this time, is 6'6", well north of 330 pounds. There's no way he can do that. And yeah, I appreciate you making that distinction, because you accused Hulk Hogan of making shit movies. I would submit that you can interchange the word shit and Hulk Hogan completely. So you could just say Hulk Hogan was making Hulk Hogan movies, and it totally tracks.
Yeah.
Whereas Roddy Piper wins because he made a John Carpenter movie, and he was in the John Carpenter picture, and I think that says a lot about not only who he was as a performer, but who was calling for him, who wanted to work with him. Because I'm not sure there were too many directors in Hollywood banging down any agent's door to get the Hulkster on the silver screen.
Kudos to Roddy Piper and John Carpenter for sticking to their guns here and doing something on their own, way more creative.
Yeah, They Live made on an estimated $4 million budget. Had a return of a little over, or close to $13.5 million, which is really, really solid considering you want to at least double it. Now we're going to dive in. Let's get into plot. That's what we talk about first.
This like unknown character, so unknown that I don't think you ever really hear his name. Is it technically Nada? Because you don't. What's his name? Nada. I'm not telling you. It's kind of this loner, this drifter who comes across California in a way too hot-looking flannel shirt for LA, but
he was dedicated to that flannel and full jeans,
like full jeans and Timbs. He comes in, he's looking for work, and he's down on his luck, hard times, as he says. Shout out Dusty Rhodes. But it takes this whole turn when he sees something going on. He's not minding his business, but he decides to be a little nosy and realizes there's like, is this ICE? I wasn't sure. The people invading the churches and the homeless shelters and everything. Then he puts on a pair of Ray-Bans, looks fly like we all do, which are legit my favorite. Wayfair Ray-Bans. I buy so many knockoffs.
You can't beat
out here.
Yeah, you can't.
They're the greatest glasses, whether you see aliens or not. But he puts these glasses on, and all of a sudden, the world's in black and white, and he realizes that all these things are like what the posters are telling you to obey, consume, get married, reproduce. They start seeing people's faces. Some people are these monsters, grotesque aliens. And then he realizes that maybe they live, essentially. All these things, there's something going on in the world. And the powers that be, the higher ups or the 1%, there's something fishy going on. And then it leads to him trying to just figure out, like he's a guy who's got nothing to lose because he's literally got no family, no nothing. So he's just decided to dedicate his time to figuring out what is happening. But it's such a play on what was going on in the 80s. Ronald Reagan and Carpenter clearly had a bone to pick and wanted this script to say to the world, to the masses, hey, maybe you should open up your eyes a little bit. And I don't want to say John Carpenter created this term, graffiti in the movie. It's they live, you sleep.
Yes.
So did John Carpenter create woke? Because he's telling everyone in this movie, you're all sleeping. You're all asleep.
And what's interesting, because when Nada, or Piper, whichever you like, puts on the shades and he does see things in black and white, which I think is a really kind of wonderful analogy for just seeing things clearly, and a way to kind of present that, is this is it's not a body snatchers movie. This isn't a movie where people are having their minds taken over or anything. I mean, to an extent they are with the channel, but I mean, like, the people are still interacting with these sort of aliens or monsters. They themselves are, the consumers. And I appreciated that choice for what it was, because it wasn't saying we or the average or however you want to label them as, they're not puppets. They have free will. It's just that they're being conditioned, and they're being conditioned through entertainment, media, advertising, never podcasts though. We would never ever try to condition. You can hate the word woke as much as you want, folks. I'm not telling you how to think. Let me know in the comments.
It's definitely been a word lately that has been, kind of run through the mud a little, and they use it almost as a negative thing. But in this movie, like, yeah, they're saying you're asleep because you're not aware. It's almost, again, this is 1988. It would be another 10 years or so for The Matrix. Kind of like, hey, wake up. You're just another pawn. You're just a puppet for these people to control you. What's one of the lines when one of the homeless people finally become rich and successful and all this, because they fall in? We all sell out every day. We might as well be on the winning team. And that is another thing that you see in, I don't know, the last few years.
I just think that's representative of corporate culture. It's when most people take a corporate job, at least everyone who I know who has a corporate job, none of them are happy. They all feel like they've compromised, and you could argue to an extent they've kind of put themselves to sleep. What this movie is pointing a finger at, I really interpret that as large corporate cultures, because even when we talk about politics, the tribalism of politics is fueled by the tribalism of corporate culture. And I do think this is a really smart, interesting movie. Like I said, at the halfway point, it kind of becomes a shoot 'em up. And that's only where I took issue with it, because I didn't feel like that part of the analogy really held weight, in the sense that it's not like, if you're suggesting, for example, that these aliens, like I said, whether they're politicians, whether corporate overlords, whatever they are, what is the equivalent in the analogy of just running in the streets and shooting? I mean, this guy is slaughtering police officers. He's slaughtering.
But they're all aliens.
They are, but nobody knows that except him. And so when you're looking at the rationale in the scene for what it is, it seems to me like it could be very dangerous, because this could fuel anybody who just feels like, well, what I think no one else is going to understand.
True.
And it doesn't really matter what your politics are, what you're trying to think. If you're somebody who just believes that, true passion is defined by not listening to anybody tell you that you're crazy, this unfortunately is one of those movies that might actually kind of push you more in that direction. So I just offer that because, for me, I wish that the solution, if you will, would have been as sort of, I don't know, a kind of on the level of what the setup was.
Because if someone were to come up to you on the street and say, or in the jungle, I should say, and says, hey, I put these glasses on and I'm seeing aliens, I'm going to go shoot all these people, you might get a little worried. You might say, you know what, put the gun down there, especially if there was some jacked, scary dude. But I see it from that point. And that is, someone in the movie says to him, like, hey, how many people did you actually kill? You've been on a rampage. And he's like, nah, they're not people. So in his mind, they're not. But to everyone else who's not wearing the shades, they're normal people. Until maybe so I guess the plot ends with he needs to destroy the signal, right? That's the
right, and that's sort of, and he succeeds. He gets on top
Yeah.
of the TV station, destroys the signal, and the movie kind of ends with, now we, the non-aliens, can see the aliens. And again, this is where I go, if the analogy is we're being controlled, then this movie suggests that the answer is using truth. But the problem is, he doesn't use truth. He uses a shotgun to mow down about 50 people before he then just puts one bullet into a satellite dish. And so I just feel like that's where it falls off, because I'm like, that big old pot belly of the analogy, what does that mean? What does that stand for? What is the transition there? Because most of us aren't nadas. We're not people with nothing to lose. We're people with friends and families and careers and podcasts. So if we want to make a change, I don't know, I would kind of like a movie that, again, if you're going to be heady enough to talk about these big themes, I don't think you can just sort of devolve into a shoot 'em up picture that's just like, this is just a movie, we're having fun, and still consider yourself as profound. That's just my take. But I guess I'm curious, 1 out of 10, that's probably a good way to phrase it, Braden. What would you give the plot?
I'll go with like the initial, I think you're right on like how we're maybe halfway through, they go, oh, well, we have to somehow just get to some action and that device being broken up. But the real like story that I guess they took from that little short story, I'll go with an 8. I'll be generous here. I'll go with an 8 because I really love the idea of this secret. Like, how high was John Carpenter when he came up with, okay, then you put the shades on and then you see obey and you see all this. So this alone, this plot here kind of has inspired many things over the last few years. So I'll go with 8.
We're not far off on our score for the plot. That brings us to characters and performances. We've talked about the character of Roddy Piper. Let's just shout out a couple other people. Keith David is in this movie as Frank. What a great Keith David role. I think for me, he was, and I say this as a big Roddy Piper fan, I say this as a big wrestling fan, but Keith David was my favorite part of this movie. He is just like, he walks that tightrope so well of like, he knows it's cheesy, but he's having fun with it. And it makes me have fun with it. So I thought he was phenomenal. We get Meg Foster as Holly, who's sort of your like femme fatale, which way will she go? But obviously this is a Roddy Piper vehicle.
Keith David, obviously from The Thing as well. So John Carpenter, obviously being really familiar with, and I think he's awesome in that movie as well. He's very good in, what is he? Agent Cody Banks. Yeah, got to check him out in that if you haven't. But he's great in this. He's also pretty jacked. The epic fight scene between the two of them, everyone will always go back to. I didn't like Holly. I just didn't trust her from the second. I mean, to be fair, he kidnaps her. It was something to do with her face. And I just knew that by the end of this, she was going to turn.
But that's what's weird, because she wasn't an alien. We know that when he puts the sunglasses on. But she does have superhuman strength, because at one point she gives a tiny little shove at Roddy Piper is flying out of a window.
Through the window.
Through the window, down a hill. So much that she assumes that he was dead. And I have to assume he's so afraid of her at that point. When they see each other again, she says, "Oh, I thought you were dead." And he was like, "Oh, I did too." Like, what? She's gonna weigh 115 pounds if she weighs anything. And she just hurls him out of a window. A little tell to me. I was like, I think she might be bad. I was like,
he then wakes up and then has that fight, by the way. So like he's already half dead and then decides to wrestle with Keith David for about 12 minutes. I really love Keith David. I think he's one of the side characters in this for me that really hit for me. I love him in a lot of movies that he does. The old street preacher as well. He was really good and kind of scary almost in the beginning of the movie when he's like reciting things. When you're not sure yet of like what's going on, I thought he was pretty good. But I do got to give credit to Roddy Piper. Like I've watched him in wrestling and he's really known for his promos over the years. Like he's considered one of the best talkers and heels of wrestling. But in this movie, he doesn't necessarily have a lot of dialogue, but when he does talk, it's epic. The bubblegum line apparently comes from the Roddy Piper diary of one-liners, right? Like the story goes is he carried around a notebook of just things he would say in his wrestling promos, gave a list of a few one-liners, and John Carpenter was like, yeah, go for it. There's some cheesy stuff in this too, but it's the 80s. We let it pass, and it's a Carpenter movie. I think he was really good in this, and it kind of makes me wonder, why didn't we get more movies with Roddy Piper shooting people?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's a real good lesson learned if you're working with talent and they are transitioning into acting. His lack of dialogue really gives him the ability to just sort of be pensive, and I think adds a level of sincerity to a lot of the movie that I don't think he would have been able to achieve through just plain dialogue. And when he does talk, he's kind of being Roddy Piper, which I think works really well because I don't know how much range he would have had. We talked earlier in the season about Anaconda, and I think they do something similar with like Ice Cube. Ice Cube is sort of transitioning over, but he's just being Ice Cube. They're not even trying to turn him into a character. I mean, he's like saying his own lyrics at one point in the movie, and almost in the same way, like Roddy Piper is just cutting promos at certain point in this movie. I think there are actors where you just have to realize if someone's paying to come see them, they want to come see Roddy Piper. So just let them be Roddy Piper. But this movie does a great job of walking the tightrope, of letting him be Roddy Piper, but only at the right moments, only when it needs to be. And it grounds the tone of what this movie is, which is what a leading man should do.
When he finally puts the shades on and sees his first alien and he starts freaking out and the lady's like, what? And he goes, no, you're good. You're okay. You're fucking ugly. It's like,
well, I want to get a great idea for characters and performances, but I teased a game earlier. It's time to play that game. I have 8 wrestlers that I'm going to name to you in no particular order.
Okay.
And you have to rank them. Who is the best actor? I'm going to name a wrestler, and you have to tell me where they land 1 out of 8 without knowing who's coming next.
Oh,
Yes, this is not easy. Where does he fall on the scale? 1 out of 8. We'll start with Roddy Piper. Start.
Oh, that's tough, but I really love this movie. So I feel like I could be safe by just going like 4.
Okay.
Because at least he did one really solid movie, and I know he did an episode of, I don't know, 90s, 2000s crime shows, but I love me some Roddy Piper.
Next up, here's a little bit of a curveball. Kevin Nash.
Punisher?
Magic Mike. Several.
I missed that one, but he's great, and he's great in a lot of movies.
Know when you're working me, Braden. I know.
Detroiters as well, I think. He's in a lot.
I'll go 6. I just really hated how he ruined the summer of punk in 2011. So sorry, Kevin Nash. I might agree with your politics, but I don't like your 2011 WWE run. So number 6, Kevin Nash.
Here's an easy one. The Rock. You had to know his name was coming up. Where do you put The Rock? 1 out of 8.
You know, I'm wondering if I go try to make Smashing Machine today. I haven't watched it yet, but
fair enough. So a little bit of a curve.
I don't think The Rock is a better actor than Batista, but like when you think of wrestlers turn actors, he's been in so many. So I know this might come to a surprise for some people, and I think I'm shocking myself. I think I'm going to put Rock as number 1. He's the fucking Rock, man. The Scorpion King. He's made bad movies, but like your mom, your grandma, your uncle, everyone knows who the fucking Rock is.
It's true. All of those family members of mine know who The Rock are. Next up, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He hasn't been in a lot. The Condemned.
The Condemned is good. The Condemned is good.
You got a 5 slot, a 3, a 2 open, a 7, an 8.
5. I'm putting him behind Kevin Nash, which is wrong, but yeah.
No, you're putting him ahead.
Okay, putting him ahead of Kevin Nash.
Yeah, Kevin Nash 6, Stone.
Oh, right.
5. Next up, John Cena.
Number 3.
I think that's the appropriate.
I really loved his scene in Trainwreck. That alone gets him. I know Peacemaker and all that, but he's still got some movies to come. I feel like he's just getting started.
Hulk Hogan. We got the 2 slot left, the 7 or the 8.
I'm gonna go the final slot, 8. Suburban Commando sucked.
Hogan down at the bottom. I'm going to leave the obvious joke alone there. You only have 2 slots, number 2 and number 7, Dave Bautista.
Number 2 for Big Dave. I mean, he killed it with Drax, obviously, and he's everything he's in. He's really funny. He's really good. I do really like Big Dave Bautista. You know, he was a Bond villain, so like that's pretty cool.
Look, you're the one that locked him in number 2. He's my number 1, but that's never the here list. That means the last wrestler by default. You don't even have to choose. You're putting them in at number 7. Andre the Giant was the last. So you technically have to live with the fact you put Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Nash. Andre the Giant. I'm so sorry, Princess Bride.
Anybody want a peanut?
I guess I didn't obey. Okay, so The Rock is the best wrestler turned actor. Okay.
Here we go. Yeah, so run it down. Let me run it down for everybody. Braden is ranked them number 8 Hogan, number 7 Andre, number 6 Kevin Nash, number 5 Stone Cold, number 4 Roddy Piper, number 3 John Cena, number 2 Dave Bautista, and number 1 The Rock.
Honorable mention: Great Khali in The Longest Yard.
I almost put Kurgan and Nathan Jones on the list, but I was really like, we're going to be here all day. People
Thank you for not doing that.
have to do way too much Googling afterwards. Now that that's all out of the way, characters and performances, 1 out of 10.
I really like Roddy Piper. I really like Frank Keith David's character in this, but everyone else, I'm like, I wouldn't mind if Roddy Piper took the shotgun to you. So I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go 7 on this one for characters.
The 7 is locked in. I love that. And hey, here's a new segment. Free merch idea. You know, I know we've got some friends over at Pro Wrestling Tees who might be listening to this. How is there not an Adam Cole shirt where it's Adam Cole's face and it just says "Oh Baby" underneath it? Come on, people.
Oh, baby.
Oh Baby. You've got Obey with Andre. Switch out Andre with Adam Cole. You do the Oh Baby. You'll print yourself some money, guys. Anyway, visual storytelling is what we're up next. Again, iconic movie. We've already talked about the Obey, the way that the aliens look, the transition when we put on the sunglasses and take them off. I feel like we've talked a lot already about visual storytelling, so I'll give you the floor to maybe shout out anything else, but otherwise, I'll have a score out of you. Yeah.
Like the way whenever he puts the glasses on, they used they had to do certain shots and make things different because obviously like the advertisements or the billboards or the aliens and stuff. So it's It's really freaky when he wears the glasses, and it gets kind of artsy and really cool. Like an underrated scene, I think, is the grocery store. Like, how much work did it take to just make everything look completely different from when it wasn't when you filmed? So it's like for the first like few minutes, or I guess like 30 minutes before you even like see or talk about aliens, it's kind of just like a shot like an 80s movie, like some homeless guy working at a construction site or something, and it's still shot like an 80s movie. So it's I wish movies were still shot like this. So I really like the art direction of like this whole thing. But I'd say the second half, when it gets really wild and aliens here and everything, especially the last shot, as you said, when you start seeing the aliens in color, it's so cool. And the fact that some artist ripped this movie off means the art was top notch for me in this one. So I'll go with like a 9.
It's fun to watch, even the way it opens with Piper coming across the tracks. It's just so like it's such a great opening shot because it's great. Use of sound is up next. John Carpenter as an auteur. A lot of auteur filmmakers are known for their uses of music, but a lot of times they're known for using other people's music, whether we're talking about Spike Lee always pulling from these really wonderful jazz soundtracks. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese come to mind if we're talking about use of pop music. This is a very John Carpenter movie in that it has a score. It just keeps using the score. It's the same score. It's kind of used all the time. And it's this sort of almost pseudo-Western, creepy, weird.
A few years ago, oddly enough, my cousin works at a record shop and he brought me, I have this special edition They Live vinyl. The thing closes with the giant Ray-Bans over top of it. I've never opened it. And I don't know whenever I'm going to sit down, burn one to the They Live soundtrack. I also own the Halloween and Halloween 2 John Carpenter vinyls as well. Like he did a whole like collection of his throwback stuff. So I'm a big fan of John Carpenter's themes in a lot of his movies. I would say this one doesn't hit as well as Halloween, obviously, or Escape from New York, which has another like memorable synthy kind of creepy feel. I'd say that was my one, like, I'm a little let down with this one. And then to make sure, I listened to one of the titled tracks, is the one you were referring to, actually, Back to the Street by John Carpenter and Alan Horwath, which is on this vinyl. And that's the one you're referring to. It's kind of country. It sounds as if like this is a homeless guy who's about to shoot some aliens.
Yeah.
But what's funny enough is I'm a wrestling fan. This song suspiciously sounds a lot like boom, 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 boom.
You didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Yeah, wow, that is a very, very sad. It is 100%.
So I love John Carpenter's synthy weird shit. I'd say this one wasn't as memorable.
But I think if you created like a spectrum, and I don't even mean like good or bad, just in terms of style of like Halloween is, let's say, a 10, and then like The Thing is a 1. I feel like, yeah, this falls right in the middle. More on the subtle side, but not on like the distinct enough side. And I guess if you think of like creepy Western aliens, yeah, it is appropriate, and I don't think of other songs like it, but I tend to agree. It's not really like, it didn't get high marks for me. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like a 5. There were some cool stuff. There's some cool bass lines. I won't lie. I was maybe looking for a bit more of my John Carpenter in this one, and it didn't necessarily hit in that way.
That brings us to the final category of theme. This movie really wears its themes, I was going to say on its sleeves, but maybe I'll say it wears it on its face like a pair of sunglasses, because I don't think at any point, especially once you're halfway through, you're confused about what this movie is about, or even trying to say, even if it doesn't offer a solution.
As a kid, it's the movie. Hey, it's Roddy Piper fighting some aliens. That's kind of what it was to me. Whereas as an adult, I'm like, whoa, this is meta. This is way ahead of its time. Like, as also someone who works in legit media, we are being manipulated by media, and this is exactly what this is telling you. But it's also so meta because it's John Carpenter, who makes money from selling media to us, who consumes it, is then telling us, hey, media is bad, this and that. But I think I don't want to be the one guy to come on a movie review show and say, hey, what if they remade this? However, it feels like this has inspired so many things. It does make me think of just how ahead of the times Carpenter was with this and how it ties into things today that it makes you think. It made me think watching this. Of course, you come for Roddy Piper and the shotgun, but you stay for the important tones and themes. There's a line. It's like, maybe they love this. Maybe they love watching us hate each other. And it's like, man, yeah, it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? So I really like the theme in this.
Instead of remaking the movie, I think this would be a really interesting movie to have a sequel, because this movie did make the statement almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're unaware of these things. So I actually think instead of retelling the story in 2025, I'd like to see a sequel where we're back in that same universe that knew about this threat, but is still dealing with the same problem, because I think that would almost echo more of what we're literally dealing with in real life. So I like your idea. I don't let this movie review podcast host completely endorse the idea of doing They Live. But maybe it is a soft reboot or more of a sequel, because I think that would echo the themes of what we're kind of dealing with.
Hey, you're meant to listen and obey, and if you don't, then you're either with us or against us, kind of thing. And I don't know, the old rich white dudes being evil. That's pretty much what's, except in this, I guess they're old rich aliens.
Yeah, they're kind of, they're take your pick. The characters in this movie are homeless, but they are working. These are people who work full time. Then I think that's what the interesting distinction is. And that's what's so scary about what we're getting back to. You know, there was a time where being homeless may or may not have been perceived as being a complete failure or not being capable. This movie very much presents capable, intelligent, hardworking people who just are not being given chances. I mean, the movie opens with Piper being turned down at an unemployment, facility, which leads him to go get a job on a construction site, a union construction site that luckily still hires him. But I mean, Keith David has a wife and 2 children back home, and he is working, living in a homeless shelter, working full time to support his family. So I only add that to what you're saying, because if you're not familiar with the movie and you're hearing, oh, they're homeless people, this is not the homeless people you're going to see in other movies. This is a homeless person that looks just like your uncle if your uncle hit the gym and was a jacked pro wrestler. 1 out of 10, Braden. What do you give the thieves for They Live?
I don't know if I want to go a full 10, because there's some things that maybe could be fixed, but I'm going to go a 9 on this one. I really love the subtle, maybe not so subtle storytelling from John Carpenter. I mean, obviously, again, he took from this other short story, but clearly he had some beef with Ronald Reagan, and he wanted to make that pretty clear. And in interviews since this movie, like, he has been very vocal about how maybe he was ahead of the times. And I completely agree that he was with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, we've beat it over the head that this is all too relevant, but it really is, and probably one of Carpenter's better works in terms of just being thought-provoking instead of just effective at tone, because this movie is effective at tone, but it is also really clear in what its themes are.
It's a message. Yeah.
I'm gonna read back your score now.
Okay.
You gave the plot an 8. You gave the characters and performances a 7. You gave the visual storytelling a 9, the use of sound a 5, and the themes a 9, for a total of 76. Here on Real Talk, that is a B+, a B. What would you, you can adjust the score too. You can bump up the 76 if you want, but that is what you graded it.
I am such a Carpenter fan. I'd say Halloween, obviously what started his whole career, is his Mecca, is his, I've probably watched that one the most. I'd say I like Halloween and The Thing over They Live, but I'd say They Live might be a bit more of an interesting movie than Escape from New York. And then like he's got like The Fog in that, which I'm a big fan, but I'd say They Live floats around a B+, or like not quite Halloween, not quite The Thing, but it's still a really entertaining, thought-provoking movie. So I wouldn't mind keeping it in this range. I think it's in a safe place.
Okay. So are we locking in a B or a B plus, Mr. Heron?
Let's go with a B plus because I like to be a B plus player. I know, Al, you're a lion, but if any dogs show up to the recording of this podcast of the Thing review, please be careful.
Way ahead of you.
Maybe they just needed shades in Alaska. They needed Ray-Bans in Alaska, and they would have seen these aliens coming from miles away.
I completely agree. But we've done a lot of agreeing on this show, and I'll prove that now by revealing our scores. We were very close. I gave the plot a 6.5 to your 8, so not only a point and a half off. Characters and performances to your 7, I gave them a 6. Visual storytelling, we both gave it a 9. Use of sound, I actually gave it a 6 to your 5. I guess I was a little more kind. And then theme, I gave it an 8 to your 9. So super close. I gave it a 71 to your 76. I gave it a B to your B plus. I think it's safe to say you're a bit more profound member of the Carpenter tribe than I am, so I think that makes sense that there's a little bit shinier of a score there. But regardless, I really enjoyed They Live. It probably is like my favorite B movie if I had to designate such. And yeah, it's always fun to see Roddy Piper and Keith David just kicking the shit out of each other for an hour and a half.
Yeah, Roddy Piper hitting the Rainmaker in this movie, by the way. He even had wrist control and everything.
It was beautiful. No, there weren't a lot of wrestling moves. There was like kind of like a gut wrench,
back suplex, a gut wrench. There was some wrestling moves. Clearly, he was helping with this fight scene, right?
But he opens with a lariat that would have made Stan Hansen proud.
There was like a wrist control, a headbutt Kamagoye. I'm getting real wrestling there.
Braden, I'm so happy you came by. It's not often the Lion and the Frog get to chat, but Absolutely. I'm very, very excited that you could come through and grade this one. We'll have to have your partner in crime, Mr. Davey Portman, on sometime. But in the meantime, our listeners should go over and check out Poison Rana. If you're into professional wrestling at all, especially professional wrestlers who are on the come up, you're not really going to get a better source to follow those athletes and entertainers and performers than Poison Rana. I've been listening to you guys since day one. Our good friends at Real Digital may or may not have had a little bit of help and help you guys with some of the branding. Braden, thank you so much for coming through, my friend.
Thank you very much. Always down to take a trip, take a stroll through the jungle and chat some movies. And I'll definitely, hopefully be back down the line. So happy Halloween, everyone. Keep spooky season going. Obey, conform, and take care of yourselves.
Before we jump into the next review, I just wanted to thank you for listening this far, and I ask that you leave a like if you're enjoying the show. And let us know what movies you'd like to hear us score on Real Talk. We're almost certainly on your favorite social media platform, so search Al the Movie Lion wherever you scroll.
The following review is powered by the provocative and twisted mind of author Joe Belcastro. Dive into his imagination at joebelcastro.com. Today we close our tribute to John Carpenter with a review of his most renowned work, The Thing. The thing about this film is that it is both a perfect example of the tools Carpenter is so proficient at using, and in doing so solidifies him as a master of his craft, which results in a great picture. Spin the wheel of subgenres, and there's a good chance you land on something The Thing qualifies for and is probably an S-tier example of. Russell may look like Han Solo in a sombrero on Hoth, but he might be closer to Chewbacca. What the film does so well is present a puzzle that's pieces are clearly laid out, but the final image is haunting because of what it doesn't reveal. Master cinematographer Dean Cundey uses oranges, blues, and blacks to fill in his stark white canvas, which feels like the only choice while watching this tale of paranoia and deception play out. I was shocked to read that the musical score for the film earned a Razzie nod for Worst Score of the Year, as I felt like the understated plucking of the bass sounded like Carpenter's answer to Jaws. But then again, when I watch The Thing, I see lots of great cinema in it, because that's what this film is. He's broken out the large-brimmed, four-dent cowboy hat and ski goggles just for this episode. So Sid, are you McReady to let me take a blood sample? You need to give it a, quick pass with the creme brulee torch. You understand.
I do like it well done, so yeah, that would be great.
Regardless, I wanted to bring you in today, Sid, to talk about The Thing, because I happen to know this is one of your favorite movies.
It is definitely a top 10 favorite, and it is close to being a top 5.
And in terms of John Carpenter movies, is this your favorite John Carpenter picture?
Yeah, I would say it's my favorite John Carpenter picture.
Safe to say it's your favorite Dean Koontz movie.
Yeah, because I don't know any other Dean Koontz movies.
Well, he did a little movie called Apollo 13, Jurassic Park. What Women Want, Sid? I know that's one of your favorites.
Yeah, he did Satan's Cheerleaders. That's funny. That's one of his early ones. And Halloween 3. I don't know if you've seen Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's different than the other ones.
It's got that Koontz charm. I have not seen it, but
Yeah,
you are really selling it.
Yeah, the Back to the Future movies.
Yeah, no, he a real legitimate icon. And in fact,
But I would say this is my favorite.
that's what I needed to know before we could move on. And now I have that information. Sid, this is a classic. Everybody I've ever talked to who brings up the thing just goes on and on about it. If anybody has ever had to listen to Quentin Tarantino talk about movies for more than 5 minutes, he usually brings up the thing. He's a pretty big fan of it. I'm just curious, when was the first time you saw the thing?
I was a young sloth. I do remember when it came out, I was too young to see it. It's one of those movies where it's like, oh, I want to see this. Kind of like with The Fly. So then I was a little older when I saw it. Yeah, I mean, I love that movie from the first time, and then you just keep watching it. And then there was another point throughout my life where it was like it hit me again at how great that movie was, and just how unique it is, and how it was the beginning for so many other movies of that genre. So yeah, it feels like it's been in my life a long time, which is funny to say about a movie, but I mean, I'm constantly referring to The Thing. So yeah,
that's why I wanted to have you on. Well, let's dive into the plot then. This is such an interesting story. Basically, the idea is, and it kind of lets you know right out of the gate, that this is an alien picture. You know, this is we have it. The movie opens with a shot of a saucer flying to Earth in a research base, it would seem, in Antarctica. At one point, I thought maybe they were on a dynamite factory, because they do have an awful lot of dynamite on this research base. But
I love dynamite.
It gives you a lot of pickles, as we learn in this movie. We basically have an entity that is on the planet. It's introduced pretty early on that this thing has come through a dog and is now infected somebody on the crew, if not multiple people, and it is sort of a man versus man scenario where everybody is sort of whittling down, trying to figure out who has potentially been infected by this thing.
The book, you know, that it's based on, Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr. That's from 1938. So I mean, how cool is that, from 1938 to have this science fiction horror written? I think that's one of the beauties of it being in Antarctica, is you could move it up to 1982 and there's not much difference. It doesn't really make a difference. You can move it up to today's timeline and it wouldn't make that much of a difference. It's a setting where it's always a harsh condition. So
I do think, much like all technology, the snowflakes have gotten smaller over the years. Global warming, I guess. But anyway, back to the point in hand. This is a segment we call Al Swings and Misses. You were saying, I'm sorry, Sid.
You know, it's a really good short story, and I've got it recently. Maybe I think last year I finally got it, or a couple years ago. I just found out not too long ago that I guess in 2017 his family found in a box 45 more pages. That was published in 2019 as Frozen Hell. It's definitely a fun story to read.
Frozen Hell is what it's called?
Frozen Hell, yeah.
If anybody, please, if any listeners have read Frozen Hell, let us know in the comments if it's worth checking out. Not often after an author has passed away do you find more pages of a specific story, let alone one that's had such an impact on pop culture.
What are your takes on the plot?
I mean, I thought it was really fascinating how the story really unfolds. You know, obviously on this show, we get into spoilers and things kind of right out of the bat. This isn't the type of show, come into real talk to, pussyfoot around what the details are here. I really love the idea that McGreedy, I mean, I definitely assume he's the alien, or the alien is a part of him. Like, I don't know, like pretty early on, I felt like that was the case. And it all the way through the movie, that's just sort of how I watched it. In the closing shot, I mean, really, really was sort of chilling because of that. Am I crazy?
When I saw, I just assumed he was the good guy and he's never infected, and so when I used to watch it, I always just saw it as that. And then, as I got a little older, then I just started exploring all the other options. And there's so many theories and fan theories out there, whether or not Childs is indeed the alien, or McCready, or both of them, or neither of them. You don't know. I mean, if you knew, you would always, I don't know. It's kind of like the Sopranos ending, you know. I like it. You read theories about people trying to figure out, they're drinking, is it gasoline? Are they trying to trick the other one into giving something away? And people go way out there. But I think even John Carpenter, I think he even said himself that you're not supposed to know. It's just kind of supposed to be. I feel like he could be completely human the whole movie, but it is strange that they find his ripped up clothing. I don't think you can argue that he's not the monster for sure. Definitely not. Everyone has a different opinion on it. You know, there's only a few opinions you can have, but it's like I never find anyone who agrees. It's kind of neat.
Purposeful ambiguity is really appropriate when you're talking about a movie about paranoia and you're talking about something that is meant to be more of a horror thriller movie. You know, this isn't a movie I don't think anyone goes into the thing expecting a happy ending. So I think you're meant to walk away with kind of an eerie, paranoid feeling of what just happened? What did I see? And I think that's, I don't know, I think it really harmonizes really well in that way in terms of what it's achieving with the plot. If I had to get a score out of you, and unfortunately I do, Sid.
I give the plot an 8 out of 10. It's only because you know, it's a very straightforward plot. You know, there's not a lot of plot twists. The twist is just you don't know who it is, and that's beautiful, and it goes the whole way through. But you know, there's room for 2 more points. You know, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Hey, I'll leave it to Carpenter to come after you in the comments. Characters and performances, Sid. That's what we're talking about now. I've got to ask you out of the gate, Wilford Brimley. Not every day on Real Talk do I get a Brimley take.
My God, yeah, Wilford Brimley. First of all, that's Postmaster General, the guy who plays Fuchs with the glasses, Joe Polis. That's Riley from the Jerk Store.
Wow.
So, yeah.
The Jerk Store called, hey, I saw you in The Thing.
I just have to mention when someone's on something.
No, Seinfeld with Sid. That's your famous segment.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley, yeah, is so good in that movie. It's just from him doing the medical examination of the alien dog, animal creature, locked up in his cabin.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good. There's something about him. He draws you in, and
you find out he's like Andy Dufresne, this bunker under his shed, and he's built a spaceship. I mean, it's just the crazy continues to unravel well when he's off screen, but it always makes sense when it comes back to him. You're like, yeah, I could see Brimley doing that.
Right. Yeah, man. And like in the book, Who Goes There, there's the line, that right there, that's not dog. I read that line and I just read it in his voice, and it just made me just stop reading and just realize yeah, he is that character.
God-given Brimley charm, Sid. You can explain it, don't even try.
I'd
be a fool to try.
Right, exactly. Yeah, let me explain to everyone why Wilford Brimley's such a good actor.
I mean, we got Snake Plissken.
Yeah, but I think this is probably if you know, if not it, top 3 for sure.
Let us know your favorite Kurt Russell, or your favorite Kurt Russell performance in the comments. Sid, you once shouted out that your dad was watching The Hateful Eight, so another performance.
Yeah, Max cool. Max, your typical, right? Your loner guy. He's definitely made to seem to be, you know, he's definitely got a good head on his shoulders.
Bit of a drunk, but you know,
a bit of a drunk. I almost feel like they could all be drunks out there, you know. But you also see his like frustration too in the beginning with the computer, the chess game, which is actually the voice is Adrienne Barbeau. John Carpenter's wife did the voice. That's the only female voice role in the movie.
Looks like you got to sleep with the director to get in one of these.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, Kurt Russell. That's how he got it too.
Yeah, he did better than the computer though. He got a better role.
Yeah,
yeah.
When he gets pissed and he doesn't care, like towards the end of the movie, he definitely is obviously like I don't care who we were before. If we were friends before, we're not now.
Circumstances have changed. You're seeing somebody in this insane scenario but I totally buy that this is how he would behave, and it happens to be really entertaining the entire.
Yeah.
Well, the last time you were on the show, Keith David didn't get a lot of screen time, and in the movie Nope, you get to end the movie with Mr.
Yes.
David in this film.
Keith David's so great. He's so great in this movie. How do you not love Childs? Do you know he did the voice for Spawn? He did the voice for Gargoyles. I believe you're a fan.
That's right.
But I also love him in, like, Something About Mary.
He was in the movie Crash,
Yes, Crash, that's right. And Dead President is one of my favorite characters of his. So yeah, here you have Childs, and I love that, him and Palmer, the mechanics, hanging out together. Palmer lights his joint, doesn't even get it to his lips yet. Child's got his arm out, waiting for her. It's so good. Anytime you're dealing with supernatural stuff or anything like that, the guy that says, "You believe in this voodoo bullshit?"
And what was just playing? What song? I made a note of it. Was playing.
Oh, Superstitious.
Yeah,
Stevie Wonder.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not know Keith David was actually adopted, as was his brother, that, again, adopted brother, who is also extremely famous in Hollywood, Larry David. A lot of people don't know Keith David and Larry David, brothers, or half brothers, of course. On this edition of Fact Check Facts with
Yeah.
Paul, I am confirming that Larry David, co-creator of Seinfeld,
Hey,
is the half brother of
Like-
Keith David. I have met
that's amazing.
Larry
It's
David,
amazing.
and a lot of people know that Al is friends
Yes.
with Larry David.
Yeah.
I've never met Keith David, but it is the first thing I asked Larry,
Oh,
and he did
mm.
immediately confirm. So
Do we know who adopted them?
I believe that would be the David family. Characters and performances, Sid.
Yeah.
What do you give it 1 out of 10?
Characters in performances. I give it a 10 out of 10, man, because 12 characters, 12 performances, 12 people nailed it.
This is a pretty good looking movie. A lot of really just beautiful, quiet moments, and I love, again, the Antarctic sort of scape with the blues and the oranges.
I really like movies in a winter setting, What a great setting for a movie right off the bat, a horror movie. You already have so much going against you. So now you just have this beautiful white nothingness, and then you have the contrast with the warmth inside. Those are some of my favorite scenes in there, especially after you watch it a few times. You just start to like see everything, and it just really looks so lived in, and it's so believable. And that's one of the things I love about the movie is even throughout the hallways, the things they have in there, everything actually just feels sort of legit and like it should be there, and like it has a use to it, or it has age to it. I mean, when they're in the Norwegian camp, they find the videotape and they come back and they're watching it, and you see on this little screen the black and white images of the Norwegian scientists making a circle around the spaceship to see the shape of it. And that isn't the exact footage, but it's from an exact scene from The Thing from Another World, the movie from the 50s, which is the first adaptation of Who Goes There. It's almost like looking at the Norwegian camp is almost like looking back at their nod to it being a remake of the original movie. Also, the use of the camera to tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
Is another thing that's just absolutely great. Of what they did, what he decides to show versus what he decides not to show.
It's very clever visually. And, earlier in this episode, we talked about Halloween. And when that movie opens, very similarly to this, the camera is sort of the POV, the point of view of the monster. And I felt very similarly where this movie starts. It's just, you almost feel like the dog is just looking up and it sees the helicopter coming. But these handheld shots where we are just sort of in the point of view, or from the point of view of the thing, is used so effectively. And it's a motif that, again, Carpenter uses in multiple films, but it's so effectively used here. The Thing, what it looks like, its transformations, and I hesitate to say body horror, but this is sort of very Cronenberg esque.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that specifically?
A great kind of gore fest, But at the same time, because it's this alien creature, it even though it's a human being originally, there's something about it that makes it tolerable to watch, as opposed to a person just getting chopped up or something. And anytime you do practical effects, especially back in 1982, to do those, that's so cool, so amazing. And just the fact that it's one creature, but he has so many different incarnations. You could call the spider thing, the Blair thing, whatever the person's name is, thing, and it's just it's cool. It's a cool looking creature because it doesn't really have a look. You never see exactly what the creature looks like. You only see the composite of what it's been made up of over the years.
Right.
And as far as visual storytelling goes as well, as the beginning, that spaceship coming in underneath the earth, that's so great that they did that in Predator also in 1987. The ship comes in under like that, and I feel like that was a total nod to this. It's very similar because most space movies they would tend to have the spaceship come in above. Oh, if you're traveling west, the plane's facing left. If you're traveling east, the plane's facing right. No, this thing comes in. It's for 1982. When I was a kid, yeah, seeing that come in, even the title comes in with, I guess, they did that whole trick with the
Yeah.
garbage bag in the water.
So basically what they do, for those who don't understand, you basically take a pane of glass and you sort of paint the thing in it. So it's completely black, but your letters, you can see through it, are glass. And then what they basically do is just put something behind it. In this instance, it was a garbage bag, and they light the garbage bag on fire. So it's just blackness, but as the hole in the black garbage bag sort of reveals and light shines through, the letters of the thing is revealed. And yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing to it, and it looks so cool.
it is a movie that within the first 30 seconds, the first 60 seconds, the first 5 minutes, you're really given so much, kind of like a visual feast. There's all these techniques and all these things happening.
Yeah, it's I haven't seen The Shining in a while.
Well, no, Sid, I gotta get a score visual storytelling out of you. We've been going long here on this one. 1 out of 10. What do you give visual storytelling?
I give it a 10 out of 10.
I was kind of expecting that's what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
I do want to know your thoughts on the use of sound. I mentioned to the open, this got a Razzie nod for worst score of the year. Is that crazy?
Oh, it is. But I gave it a 10 out of 10 because I don't know what you could do better. That music is incredible. That thump, it comes on,
Good.
your heart pumps, you get butterflies in your stomach. And then the whole movie, I mean, every time he uses his music, it heightens the scene, 10 times. I mean, I can't think of anything else you'd do. What are you gonna do? Put a soundtrack in there? Put some songs other than, I mean, that blows my mind that it got a Razzie.
When I was making my notes while I was watching this, I wrote down, is this Carpenter's best score? Because even, I feel like in the same way that you have like Pulp Fiction and then there's Jackie Brown, that's sort of like what the scores are, where like Halloween is like the Pulp Fiction and the score here is like Jackie Brown. It's like, it's very understated, but it's still very much like a Carpenter. Like it feels very Carpenter. But
Ennio Morricone, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? I think it may be one of his best scores. Yeah, it's when you hear it, you know that movie, what's coming.
It's Jaws. It's like
right. Yeah, that's right. That's new.
Yeah, no, it's such a great. And again, you mentioned earlier that the creature, the thing, doesn't have a form. So this sound is sort of the most consistent form that it takes. When this track, this score is present, this theme is around, the looming presence of this creature, even though you don't know what it looks like, that it's coming. So yeah, I don't think that score is crazy at all. It does bring us to theme, though. I'm very curious, Sid, to get your thoughts on the themes of The Thing.
Oh yeah, well, see the themes. I mean, you've got obviously paranoia. You've got the horrors of assimilation. Just how well do we know ourselves? And then isolation. You have all these different things that are all horrors alone, and they're just all together, compounding one another. Man versus supernatural, man versus technology, man versus nature, man versus man, even man versus time.
Man versus alien husky. Confused with man versus husky alien.
Yeah, that's even scarier, man. Yeah, because where do you shop?
When you talk about movies being exercises in tone, this is a movie that is very much kind of an exercise in tone. And I think that's because it's so aware of the themes that it's exploring. You just mentioned them. So I'll ask you, Sid, 1 out of 10, what do you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10. That's pretty darn high, Sid. This might be your highest score so far.
Yeah.
There's no way we can check that, so I can't confirm, but I can read it back if you're ready.
Let me grab on my branch.
That's right. Settle in. You gave the plot an 8, the characters and performances a 10, the visual storytelling a 10, the use of sound a 10, take that Razzies, and the theme a 9. That's a total of 94, Sid. Is that an A+?
I don't know what you kids are doing these days, but that was an A- back in the day. I would call it an A+. Absolutely.
The A+ is locked in with the 94. I'll reveal my score now. To your 8, I gave the plot a 10. I felt like for me, again, this just sort of unravels. I haven't watched it as many times as you have, but I just really got swept up in the idea that Kurt Russell is infected and is the alien, and so it really, like, that last shot really landed for me. So any time a story is unraveling up until the last shot, that gets high marks for me. Characters and performances, you and I aligned with a 10. Visual storytelling, I gave it a 10. Use of sound, I also gave it a 10, mainly despite the Razzies. And then for theme, I gave it a 9 as well. So I gave it a total of a 98 to your 94. So yeah, I think that's what, a 96 average. So pretty darn good for The Thing. Sid, I'm really glad that you would come here. Again, I'm glad that you wore the hat and the goggles. Yeah, will you come back again? I feel like I always ask and you always answer the call, but I want you to know you're welcome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I will definitely come back as long as Keith David's in the movie.
Copy that. Well, we got to make sure we get Keith David's in there, or apparently the movie will probably lose a few points. Sid, it's Halloween time. John Carpenter was the episode today because we were in the Halloween season, and I felt like that's a guy you can celebrate Halloween with. So happy Halloween, my friend. I know it's one of your favorite times of the year.
Oh, thank you. I will see you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening, and here's a look at the scoreboard from our show. Justin graded Halloween an 82 and an A- to my 47 in D+, with a 64.5 C average. They Live received a 76 in B+ from Braden Harrington and a 71 in B from me, with an average score of 73.5 and a B. Finally, landing the highest score on today's show, Sid graded The Thing a 94 and A+ to my 98 and A+, giving it an average of 96 and an A+. Please tell me what you graded each film in the comments, as I genuinely want to know. A big thank you to Justin Tyler, whose work is viewable now, A Character's Welcome. Support Braden Harrington by visiting Up Next on Patreon and subscribing to Poison Rana on YouTube. And thanks again to JoeBelcastro.com for sponsoring our review of The Thing. Join us next time on episode 14, Bong Joon-ho. Jeremy McDaniel, DP Extraordinaire, is back to score Mickey 17. Lila the Sugar Glider returns to talk Oakjaw. And from the Wellness Policy, Jordan Goodman grades Parasite. Thanks to the team at Real Digital for producing this episode, and Platinum Plastic, who sponsors our show's merchandise on redbubble.com. If you haven't left a like by now, you might as well, and subscribe to the channel as well as hit the bell icon to be notified when Real Talk drops each week. Thanks for listening, and if you're going to talk movies, make sure it's Real Talk.
What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team. See ya, boys.